That's on me. I don't know about you, but I am still coming down from the craziness of that EuroBasket quarterfinal between Germany and Slovenia. Let's break it down and why Franz Wagner looked more like a star in this game than he ever has. Today on a live episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic and on X Spaces at OMagic Daily. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find me, of course, on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, it's time to break down the EuroBasket quarterfinals. We're going to break down that huge game between Germany and Slovenia, why Franz Wagner looked more like a star than he has at any point. A really incredible performance, incredible game from Franz. I'll explain why I think this was a major statement game from Franz in a way that maybe you're not thinking about. We'll get to that coming up here in a minute. Plus, I want to get your questions. So if you're watching live on YouTube, if you're listening live on the X Spaces, drop in questions or raise your hand. We'll get to your questions during this show over the next 30, 40 minutes, however long we end up going. I have a full show planned anyway. So we'll get to all those questions. Go ahead, leave your comments in there. We will get to them in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can be one of our Orlando Magic dailies. Listen, 5 days a week. We are in season now, 2 weeks away from the start of training camp and media day. Get in the habit now. Download and subscribe to Locked On Magic wherever you listen to podcasts or here on YouTube. All part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we get to your questions, let's start with the game that I am still, frankly, coming down from. The game that, frankly, we're 2 hours since the game ended as we're recording this. My heart is still beaten. Like, that was an intense game. And credit to Slovenia. I know there's been some back and forth about the officiating since the game ended. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the officiating was great. It was bad. Officiating was it wasn't bad. It was consistent. It was heavy. I thought there was a lot of fouls that I wouldn't have called in that kind of a situation. But what I want to talk about is Franz Wagner's game. Because fair or not, and it's less a big deal now because of the way that he played in the playoffs, there is still a little bit of a reputation that Franz Wagner does not show up for the big games. We know that's wrong. Like, we put the game 7 to bed. He had a bad semifinal against France. Like, it was always this kind of lingering story throughout the last year. And he goes up and has this really incredible showing in the playoffs. Average, 25 points per game, had the big finish to game 3. The Magic gets swept without Franz Wagner. And that obviously the Magic don't make the playoffs without Franz Wagner, but that's neither here nor there. Still, I think that question's always kind of lingering for us. What happens when Franz Wagner doesn't have it going? Doesn't have the shot going? Doesn't have like the efficiency that we're used to? We saw him have a 1 for 15 showing in a game 7. And again, he's grown a lot since that. I think we could put that to bed. But stardom to me is about consistency. Everything's about consistency. Consistency is the theme of the day. But stardom to me is about having an impact on the game and finding a way to put your imprint on the game, even when you don't have it all working. Even when it doesn't feel like it's going to be perfect. Stardom is, I may not have my shot, but I'm going to get others involved, or I'm still going to find a way to make an impact on this game. Franz Wagner's stat line in this game on Wednesday was very strange. 23 points, 5 for 17 shooting, 0 for 3 from 3. But he gets to the line for 14 free throw attempts, 13 for 14 from the line, has been alluded to. Slovenia was not happy with the officiating in this game. And by getting to the line for 14 free throw attempts, Franz Wagner may not have shot efficiently. He had like a 49% true shooting percentage. He may not have been perfect. And yeah, Germany would have had an easier time if Franz had made his shots. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But Franz kept his imprint on this game. You hear me say this about Paolo Banchero a lot. He's a constant drumbeat. He's just a metronome, just kind of doing the things that he's doing, and it's others that go up or down. It's him that's the constant. That's what this game was for Franz Wagner. And of course, in the critical moment, Germany up by 3, about 2.5 minutes to play, 2 minutes to play, something like that, minute and a half to play. Franz Wagner gets a kick out off a rebound, jab steps his man to get space to drive to the elbow, and drains his only shot outside the paint in this entire game. An elbow jumper that put Germany up by 5 and gave them the 2-possession lead that they would hold on to for the rest of the game and win 99-91. That to me is a star-making play. Like that to me, I think about the shot Paolo Banchero had 2 years ago against New Orleans. Huge shot, just a huge star-making shot. Something you don't really think about, but is just tremendously impactful. This was a star shot for Franz Wagner. In a game where he just doesn't have it, his impact is everywhere. His ability to get to the line, the big shot, and yes, his incredible defense on Luka Doncic throughout the course of this entire game. Luka Doncic had 39 points. I'm not going to sit here and say like defense was perfect. No, there is no defense that can stop Luka Doncic. But Franz Wagner made it very difficult for Luka to get easy shots. And Luka was not getting to the basket nearly as much when Franz was on him in the second half. I am a big believer that Franz Wagner is a potential all-defensive team player. I think he is a much better defender. He's never going to put up the defensive stats, but anyone who thinks they can attack Franz Wagner is sorely mistaken. He is a very good defender. And he put all of that on display to make critical contributions despite a game where his jumper, his shot, his floater, his layup, everything else offensively wasn't working. Now, Luka Doncic is your traditional star. I made this argument that Franz isn't a traditional star. Luka Doncic is his traditional star. He's going to make the step backs. He's going to do all those pretty moves. He's going to make these tough shots. And Franz Wagner isn't that level. I'm not going to pretend that Franz is a future like 35 point per game guy like Luka is. But Franz is a star because of games like this one. He is a star because even on a bad day, he lets you know his impact. He keeps his team in the game. He didn't shoot the team out of the game. And when it all was said and done, Franz Wagner made the big play, made the big shot, made the big moment that won this game. Before we move to your questions and move on to talk a little bit about Georgia, I would be remiss if we did not talk about the contributions from teammates, because it wasn't just Franz. And what the difference between Slovenia and Germany is a complete team with a lot of different players who contribute, a lot of different players who can make an impact. Dennis Schroeder had 20 points. Daniel Theis was named the player of the game, was very, very good throughout the game. Except the early part. He's not getting a lot of rebounds. I'm kind of ready for Daniel Theis to give way to Isaiah Hartenstein in the next tournament in the World Cup. Maudo Lowe had big shots. Andreas Obst hit that crazy runner that gave Germany the lead for the first time since the first quarter. And of course, our guy Tristan da Silva hit the big shot of the game, draining a half-court three that made it, I think it was a 4-point game at the end of the third quarter, and then hitting a layup off a pass from Franz for his 5 points in this game. What makes Germany so good is that they are truly a team. What makes Germany so good is they are truly a unit that has worked together and grown together, and it allows them to face this adversity. They talked about this on the broadcast, on the English broadcast on Courtside 1891, how Germany just hasn't been challenged this tournament. And that's not true. They were challenged against Portugal in the round of 16. But they had to face real adversity and come through for the win. It was a big moment for Germany and a huge victory. setting up their semifinal against Finland. We'll talk a little bit about why Finland won and why Finland is the team meeting Germany in the semifinal. We'll get to that, plus your questions. I have a speaker request here on the X Spaces. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. It's perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push of power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. We've all been on the golf course here in Florida. It is extremely, extremely hot. And so the best way to cool off and get that energy to finish that back nine is with 5 Hour Energy, because golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now, you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA, except for the Masters, of course. Tee up that trip. Visit 5, that's the number 5, HEWin.com. That's the number 5, HEWin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament, of course, and ends October 31st. All right, the purpose of this show is to go live, is to have is to get you involved and get your questions. So we've talked about Franz Wagner. We'll get to Georgia and Goga Bitadze here in a minute. I do have something to say about him, but let's get to a speaker request here on the X Spaces. Andrew Crawford, how you doing, Andrew? What question do you have for me?
Hey, so I just wanted to touch base with you. I have 2 questions. The first one kind of centers around the Franz talk, and the second one just about the Magic team in general. First question about Franz. So kind of just watching him grow alongside Paolo, I think that Franz is the perfect 1B type of player. I think he can definitely be a 1A type player, but I think that Paolo is, a little bit more ball dominant. He's a little bit more commanding of the other team's defense and things like that. So I just wanted to hear your opinion on, do you think that both of those guys can grow together in this current window that we have, where everybody's pretty much signed, and hopefully bring us into a championship here in the next couple of years in Orlando?
Yeah, I do believe that they really complement each other well and complement their personalities well. Like you said, like I've kind of been on this with a lot of people. Paolo is like your traditional star guy, and like if you remember back during that draft process, I was like, well, if you're gonna draft Paolo, you need to make sure he's your 20-25 point per game guy. Like that's really the only role that he can play. And look, I think he's a better passer than people give him credit for. I think he's a better defender than people give him credit for. But he very much is I'm going to have the ball in my hands. I'm going to make decisions. I'm going to survey the floor. It's why the Magic aren't going for a traditional point guard, because the shot just isn't there for him to work off the ball. Franz, I think, complements him really well, because Franz can do all that stuff like you mentioned, but Franz is also really comfortable cutting, moving without the ball, kind of playing off the ball a little bit more. And obviously the shot needs to develop, I think, for the Magic to ultimately be a championship contender, because you need to be able to space the floor a little bit. But on top of that, I think Franz, just personality-wise, getting him to be more assertive and look for his own and take over games, I think that's the element that he's missing that Paolo has. Like Paolo can score 50 points. Like I was shocked that was his first 50-point game at any level that he had back in October. That's the kind of thing that I expect from Paolo, because he's just a bucket getter. Franz, I think, doesn't think score. He doesn't think I'm going to force my way to the hoop, or I'm going to force this basket. He thinks I am going to look for an advantage, and if it's not there, I'm just going to keep moving it. And so I think that's, I think with the Magic, we're trying to coax Franz out of it a little bit to say, like, hey, go get yours. Like, don't be afraid to go get yours. Sometimes we just need you to hit a tough shot. And I just don't think that's Franz's like first instinct, if that makes sense. Like Paolo will take a tough midi, and you're trying to like teach him the right times to do that. With Franz, you're trying to teach him like, hey, it's okay to take a mid-range shot sometimes. That's your area. That's an area you're allowed to score in. And like honestly, like the one area where Paolo's injury was sort of a blessing is it kind of forced Franz to do that more and think that way. And he's clearly gotten better because of it. And he's a little bit more comfortable with that. So I do think they're very comfortable playing off each other. I do think they're very comfortable kind of in that role and with that mindset. And I think they play off each other really, really well for that reason.
Yeah, perfect. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I definitely like the point you made there about, Paulo's injury kind of forced Franz to kind of step in. And even the last couple of years in international play, when Franz was kind of the go-to guy for Germany, you could see the little bit more of the dominant, like, this is my kind of team type of thing. Not necessarily like in a selfish way.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we need to get a bucket here, go get us a bucket. So I'm definitely excited about that. And then quickly, just my second question, I've been an Orlando Magic fan since I moved here in 2002. This is the most excited I've been about a team going into, the season that I can remember, even before, like with the Dwight and the 2009 team. My question for you is like, what are your like realistic expectations and what do you want to see from the team? I mean, obviously winning a championship would be the ultimate goal, but like, what do you want to see the team do? Is it like a first round win and, be competitive in the second round? Is it making the Eastern Conference Finals? Like, what do you want to see from this team beginning this window here that we have?
Yeah. So look, I think anything is really possible with the way the East is set up and just knowing how talented this Magic team is. I think among the teams in the Eastern Conference, like Cleveland is the only team I think that like clear cut has a better starting four or top four guys than the Magic. So the Magic should be in all those conversations. So the first thing is the Magic have to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish last year, which is home court advantage, advance out of the first round. I think that's baseline. Like if they don't get out of the first round this year, we're going to ask some very serious questions about a lot of different things about whether the Magic can get to that level or what's holding them back from that level, because they have the roster to be a home court advantage team, number one, and they have the roster to win a playoff series. And we should expect them to win a playoff series. And frankly, I'd be disappointed if they don't get 50 wins. Like I think it's a marker. It's not the be all end all of everything, but 50 wins is a distinguishing marker for a lot of quality teams, especially in Magic history. I would expect them to get 50 wins and be a home court advantage team, be the 3 or the 4 seed, maybe the 2, who knows, but be a top 4 seed and win a playoff series. I think more importantly for this season, we need to see that they are on the track toward a championship. And so what I mean by that is essentially a competitive second round series. They need to look like, okay, they can compete with Cleveland, especially Cleveland or New York, that they are a team that is maybe just experience away from beating a quality opponent that is competing for a championship. And, we wanted that last year too. We wanted just to see how close we were. And we get to the series against Boston and we got to see that. And we could very clearly see like Paolo and Franz are ready to go. Like they're good enough to score and compete and play against an elite Boston Celtics team. I know they lost in the second round. I know they weren't everything that they thought they would be, but that was a championship level team. That was a defending champions. They ran circles around the Magic essentially, for lack of a better way to phrase it. And Orlando just looked overwhelmed. They looked just a little, they were a little too much for them. This year I want to see the Magic go up against a New York, go up against a Cleveland and look like, okay, they lost because they lost a close game, or they lost because they just didn't have the experience of winning a playoff series and going deeper into the playoffs. We need to come out of this season and come out of the playoffs thinking we're right there. We're missing one piece, or we're just missing a little bit of experience, but we're right there and we're going to make that next step next year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I definitely agree with you as well. I mean, obviously last year, that was our expectations kind of going into it as well. The injuries kind of derailed the season a little bit, but, once they got, Franz and Paolo got, a little bit more back into rhythm and, The team started playing well. They did show out, and it was good to see Franz, especially. He did have great games in that first year against Cleveland, but that disappointing game 7 up 15 in the at half and things like that. So I definitely agree. I'm hoping that the shooting comes around. Not to kind of make a joke about it, but it's coming at this point. It's if Bane doesn't have a great shooting year, it might be something with the arena.
It's something in the water. Yeah, no, for sure.
So I definitely am excited, man. I appreciate you letting me speak and ask my questions. You definitely answered them, and I'm excited for the team, excited for the season. Let's go show the world that we're here and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you hopping on the X Spaces. I know this was kind of short notice. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. Have a great day, man.
Yep. All right. Let's get to a question here on the YouTube comment page. We've got Luis Rosario, who's been commenting a lot. And if you're watching on the show, if you have any questions about the Magic, about EuroBasket, about anything, pop them in the comments. We'll get to them here on the show. He asks, what is your best midseason trade position to make sure we go as deep as we possibly can this year, center or point guard or pure shooter? I am loath to think too far in advance to February, especially since we haven't actually seen this team play. So I'm going to give you an answer. I promise I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm going to give my cop-out answer first. We don't know this team yet. And I think that's really, really important. We're very excited about this team. We're optimistic. They got the talent to be really good. We don't actually know how this team's going to work yet. So I can't sit here and say definitively, oh, the Magic need this, the Magic need that, the Magic should go after this. I can't sit here and tell you this is the guy they're going to be targeting right now, or this is the thing they're going to be targeting right now. I would say the thing that I am watching through the early part of the season is certainly the center position. Like, I think that, I'm a big Wendell Carter believer. If you listen to the show, you know that I'm very much a Wendell Carter defender. But center is the next obvious spot to be looking at. They've upgraded every other part of the starting lineup. But I'm very comfortable with Wendell Carter as the starting center. I do suspect that the Magic have a big trade chip in Goga Bitadze, especially if Mo Wagner comes back and he looks fine. They've got Orlando Robinson as a backup. They can probably find a third center on the mercenary market when they're able to sign players. So I don't think it's necessarily position. I think what the Magic will go for is generally depth, because my big concern for the upcoming season, and I want to do an episode on this next week or in the coming weeks. My big concern is that I am not sure the Magic have the depth that they need quite yet, or the depth is just uncertain. It's, Anthony Black. Like, what is Anthony Black at this point? We don't know. We don't really know what Anthony Black is. We see the scoring potential. We know the defensive potential, that it hasn't all come together quite yet. Jonathan Isaac's got to have a bounce back offensive season. Goga Bitadze is going to hold down the center spot. Mo Wagner will come back. What state is Mo Wagner going to be in? And then you mentioned him earlier about Tristan da Silva, about the way Tristan da Silva's played. He does look like he can contribute a little bit off the bench. He's not making mistakes, but obviously he had big plays in this game. He's comfortable in big moments, but the Magic can need him to shoot consistently. He's going to need to be able to make 3-point shots and be a consistent player. And of all those guys I talked about, none of them are bucket getters. The Magic are always going to have one of their big four, if not two of their big four, on the floor at the same time. They're not going to be able to have a full bench lineup, which, maybe you don't want anyway. It's going to force Jamal Mosley to actually tighten his rotation. But if any of those four guys have any issues, and look, we know Jalen Suggs has injury issues. Desmond Bane has injury issues. He doesn't average 60 games per year. He does miss time. And maybe playing a lower role, having more support, maybe that helps him. But I think that's the thing that I'm watching is I need to know what I have in my bench. And I think if the Magic make any moves at the trade deadline, it'll be to bolster their depth and bolster their bench and maybe find a primary scorer that can come off their bench and give that bench a little bit of an offensive lift, a little bit of a playmaking creation lift. And look, Tyus Jones is going to help, but Tyus Jones isn't a primary scorer either. And so I think that is the next phase for this team. If that's what they'll do during or that's what they'll do during the trade deadline in February. So we got to watch it. I don't want to commit to one thing or another. I don't know anything about that, but that's kind of where I stand on that. And Lewis, I see you in the comments there. I do thank you for the wooden sign. It's right there behind me, right next to my stuff in the box and my space shuttle coin set there. So thank you again for that. That was a really awesome gift. I have a few questions about things that I don't know too much about. So sorry, Trent, I can't tell you very much about it. Evan Karanchakov at Arizona. I'm not studying up on the draft very much right now, especially because the Magic don't have draft picks at the moment. And then I don't know if Tristan da Silva ever considered representing Brazil. I would say this: his brother is on the German national team, so I think as long as he was going to be on the German national team, he's got more ties to Germany than Brazil. I wouldn't be shocked if it was never really a consideration. Honestly, I was a little shocked that Tristan da Silva was on the national team this year. Just because still a little young, a lot of pressure to win, I thought they'd bring him in to introduce him and he'd be there for the World Cup. So a little bit shocked, but look, he earned his way onto this team. I'm coming off I'm a little low on Tristan da Silva, and I think I am a little bit hesitant about Tristan da Silva. Just because I want to see him make more of an impact. He's a senior. I expected him to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more kind of engaged in the game. And, I think sometimes he fades into the background a little bit too much and isn't as present as he needs to be. Trent Boring asking the next question about Tristan da Silva. Then I'll put this one on the screen. Do you see Tristan da Silva starting for Germany in the World Cup? I would note this: the World Cup is still pretty far away. We're 2 years away from the World Cup. Looking at Germany's roster, it's hard for me to think that he will. I think we'll get Dennis Schroeder for the World Cup, so he's going to start at the point. You'll have Franz. You'll have Isaiah Hartenstein. I think will be playing for Germany at the World Cup in 2027. I don't see a reason, unless this injury is really bad, why. I'm blanking on the name now. Why the guy that's hurt wouldn't play at the 4. And then the 2 is Andreas Obst. Obst is just such a good shooter. So I don't think we would see Tristan da Silva start in that scenario. Voigtman, there he is. Voigtman. I don't think we would see Tristan da Silva start in that scenario. But again, part of Germany's strength, part of why Germany is one of the best teams in EuroBasket in FIBA is they are very deep. They're very comfortable going 8-9 guys deep. And I don't think a lot, especially, when you're playing like the US or playing like some of these elite teams, I don't think a lot of these other teams in FIBA play are very comfortable diving really deep into their bench. You look at Slovenia, one of the reasons Slovenia was in control of this game is they got a lot more support for Luka Doncic than they normally get. Luka has to carry so much weight for that team. They really, I think I saw Mark Stein say they only had one other player who played in EuroBasket, not the NBA, Euro League, which is the big league in Europe among the best teams in on the continent or in the federation. So Germany's a deep team, and they got some guys coming up the pike too. So they'll be very interesting to watch how Germany continues to develop as a basketball nation. You can go back, listen to my conversation with Andre Voigt about German basketball and the impact the Wagners have had on that. I did that at the beginning of EuroBasket, so a few weeks ago. Definitely worth to listen if you're looking to hear and learn a little bit more. We are coming up on 30 minutes here on the show. If you have a question, whether you're in the X Spaces or watching on YouTube, feel free to jump in with a question, with a comment. We'll get to those comments. But I do want to talk a little bit about Goga Bitadze and what he showed during this EuroBasket run. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. So let's talk then about Goga Bitadze, because Germany wasn't the only team that played this today and wasn't the only Magic player that played today. Goga Bitadze and Georgia ended what was a really special EuroBasket run against Finland. And they fought hard. Again, I think Georgia has a lot to be proud of. Their first time in the EuroBasket quarterfinals, the furthest they've ever advanced. Just a huge accomplishment for that team. I know it means so much to all of them, meant so much to the fans. You could hear those fans. And Georgia, I think the moment got a little big for them. They lose 93-79, but they cut a 20-point lead down to 6 in the fourth quarter. And they had a shot in this one. They really had a shot in this one. And things unraveled very, very quickly. And the way things unraveled in this game is really part of the story for Goga Bitadze. In one instance, on one end of the floor or on one side of the spectrum, Georgia's making their run to get back into this game, and it's Goga Bitadze making a lot of plays, getting a dump down dunk, getting a tip dunk, getting a steal that led to a Sandro Mamukelashvili lay-in that made it a 6-point game. He was super active, super energetic after not playing so great in the game against France, but still coming up with some big plays at the end of that. When we've talked about Goga Bitadze throughout this tournament, and when I talk about Goga Bitadze, I talk about consistency, and I talk about being able to depend and count on the same things over and over and over again from him. And it's not just production, because we know that if you give him the playing time, he's going to score. He's going to get rebounds. He's just a presence in the paint. But at times too, Goga Bitadze kind of loses the plot, kind of loses his cool, kind of loses that composure that you need to be successful. And that's what happened with Georgia in the game. Georgia fighting for their tournament lives, trying to climb their way all the way back against this Finland team. Goga Bitadze went for a rebound and threw an inadvertent elbow. Elbow comes out. He has sharp elbows. It happens. The referees go to the monitor. They look at the play. There's his fourth foul. The referees go to the monitor. They look at the play. They deem it a violent act. And the unsportsmanlike foul, along with the technical foul he took in the second quarter, means he was ejected from the game. All of a sudden, Goga Bitadze is not there on the floor as his team is fighting for their tournament lives. And look, elbows happen. Like they happen. I'm not going to be so upset about him having an elbow, but knowing that he had a technical foul he was sitting on that he really didn't need to get. It was just him arguing with the ref, and knowing how vital he was to this team in a game that Georgia lost by 14, he was +4. They were better with him on the floor than Shermadini. It was a huge, huge loss for Georgia to lose Goga Bitadze in that moment. And there are just, unfortunately, so many times it just feels like Goga takes himself out of the game. And so undoubtedly in this tournament, Goga Bitadze showed us he is a much improved player. He is shooting threes. Like, it's crazy. You want to know a crazy stat? Last year, Goga Bitadze took 28 total threes in 70 games. In 6 games at EuroBasket, he took 22. He nearly took as many threes in the last 2 weeks. In fact, let's expand it to the exhibition games. He took as many threes in the last month as he took in the last season. And in EuroBasket, on those 22 attempts, small sample, he made 36.4% of those shots. The fact that Goga Bitadze could potentially come to Orlando with a jumper is game-changing. It is something that may flip how the Magic use him and what the Magic can do. It gives them more versatility, which is exactly what the Magic are always looking for. But by the same token, the Magic have to count on Goga Bitadze to keep his cool, keep his head, and be the metronome. Provide the Magic with something consistent and not be all over the place, not be up and down, not be way up, way down. It's got to be, we want those highs, but we got to limit those lows. We got to stay right in the middle sometimes. And that's the ticket to Goga Bitadze getting more playing time. That's the ticket for Goga Bitadze to be more involved, to be a bigger factor for this team. And right now, the Magic don't know if they can count on him for that. Right now, the Magic know generally what they're going to get from him. I'm not going to pretend that they don't. But right now, as the Magic look at their roster and who's going to play and what they're going to do, knowing that Goga Bitadze could have these spurts or these bouts or whatever you want to call them, where he kind of loses engagement with the game or loses the game plan, that's why he doesn't play as much as certainly his talent level and his stats think he should. Now, again, Goga Bitadze is a better basketball player today than he was in May. I am really excited to see what Goga does because he's going to get playing time. He's going to be the backup center while Mo Wagner's out until mid-December or whenever Mo Wagner returns. And that is really exciting. You want your players to get better, and Goga got better. And look, these are momentary lapses that, like, generally he was good throughout this tournament. But the Magic are trying to win a championship. Let's not hide from that. They are trying to win a championship. And to win a championship, the margins are really small. Like in the Germany-Slovenia game, if Germany loses that game, this episode is about how Franz Wagner struggled in the limelight again, how he missed the shots and that cost his team the game. The weight was on his shoulders and he didn't deliver. Germany won. Franz made a big shot. Franz delivered. That's the difference. And the margins when you're trying to compete at the highest levels are even smaller. And that's where the Magic are going. As mentioned, Kamar Baldwin really struggled in this game. As mentioned in the comments there, Kamar Baldwin really struggled. It wasn't just Goga Bitadze. Goga Bitadze actually had a good game, like 14 points, 4 rebounds. So plenty more to work on, but plenty to be excited about with Goga Bitadze. We will be wrapping up here soon on X Spaces as well as YouTube Live if you're listening to us live, but still plenty of time. Sneak your comments in, sneak your questions in, because I want to talk to you guys. That's why I do these. That's why I want to do these live shows. And I like doing these live shows because I want to talk to you and hear what you have to say and get your input and contribution to the show. So let's do that with Rafa Casanova, who says, if Franz brings this level of foul merchantry to Orlando, we're going to be putting a lot of teams in jail. LOL. That is certainly a thing. Now, I looked this up a while back. Franz Wagner was one of, I think, 30 players in the league last year that averaged 5 free throw attempts per game. So Franz Wagner did get to the line last year. Like it's, I think there's a perception that like Paolo obviously gets to the line a ton and puts a lot of pressure on opponents. Franz did his part too. So let's make sure we give Franz that credit. But Franz Wagner in EuroBasket, if you give me time to stall and get to my stat sheet, has been so much better. He has been like one of the things that I have noticed and I've taken note of during not just EuroBasket, although I'll give you the EuroBasket stats, but it's been during the entire summer as he has been getting to the line a lot more. Franz Wagner in EuroBasket, just in EuroBasket, so these are the 7 games that he's played, 8.3 free throw attempts per game. That's like Paolo levels. Paolo is getting to the line 7, 8, 9 times per game. And so you're right. The Magic last year led the league in free throw rate. Paolo is a big part of that. He is a foul merchant. It's impossible to avoid fouling him because he's just such a big dude. If Franz is able to get to the foul line, and I've had this perception that Franz doesn't get to the foul line or doesn't get credit for the fouls because he's just so good at dancing around, and the sun is coming right into my apartment as usual. He's just so good at dancing around defenders. And so he kind of gets the benefit of the doubt that he's just going to find his way around guys. But if he is able to get to the basket or able to get to the foul line like this, and again, 5 free throws per game last year, if he's able to get to 6 or 7 per game, that's a huge difference. Like this is something I talk about. This is something I talk about not enough, but the Magic are obviously like near the bottom of the league in offensive rating and all that stuff. The way they climb the ratings isn't actually just like some transformation. Like obviously make a few more threes, you're going to score more points. And that's a big part of this deal too. But the Magic also leave a lot of points at the foul line. If Paolo goes from 70% free throw shooting to 75, 76% free throw shooting, that's 2 more points per game. If Franz gets to the line, he shoots 4 for 5, let's say every game. If he gets to the line 6 and he's 5 for 6 every game, that's another point every game. And then the Magic make more threes. That's, 2, 3, 4 points more. All of a sudden you're looking at like 8, 9 more points per game. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of the pack offensively. So something to consider, like, yes, Franz being able to get to the line this consistently. I hope this carries over. I hope it isn't just a EuroBasket thing, because I do think that, again, puts a lot of pressure on defenses and changes things for the Magic. Luis Rosario back in here says, do you think NBA has Franz introduced first or last in the Berlin game? The Berlin game is officially a Magic home game. I know for the London game back in 2016, because that was just a one-off game though. But the Magic sent their game ops crew to that game. And so that was a Magic home like game ops crew running the show, doing, I don't think Paul Porter did PA or anything like that, but it was the Magic game ops crew like running the show in that game in London. I don't know if that's the case now, because I think that the NBA has more control over these games now. But it would not shock me if Franz is introduced last. Like, it's like that whole game in Berlin, you know, they picked the Magic for a reason. Franz is going to be a big part of that whole week, or that whole trip to Berlin. So definitely part of that. Jan FIFA, I hope that's Jan and not Jan, but Jan FIFA or Jan FIFA says, what's your thought on Luka crying all game? Should he got a second tech or fouled out in the first half? If you don't know, Slovenia is not very happy with the officiating. They were very upset about the calls that were made in that game. And I frankly cannot blame them, but I would also argue that Luka did his favorite foul merchanting and did his favorite kind of moves that usually get foul calls. And he got some really soft fouls for a game of this magnitude. Like, I'm of the opinion that the deeper in, you know, like, generally you shouldn't change how you call games anyway, but generally this late in a tournament, this big of a game, you want to let guys play. Like, if it's a foul, it needs to be a foul. You know, like, again, you obviously, like, bump, you know, a little bump here or there ain't going to bother me. I thought Luka got some soft calls that went his way. Not that they weren't fouls, but they were soft, and they were not foul, and they were a little bit of like, I'm gaming you, the ref, or gaming the defender into reaching and you know, and shooting when they're not expecting me to shoot. And I'm glad that the refs don't fall for that stuff in FIBA and award shots for things that are clearly like, I'm just trying to get a foul and get some free throws. I think there's just a lot of frustration because, like, look, Franz puts pressure on a lot of guys. And I think Slovenia's strategy was, we can't let Germany get out in transition, so we're going to muck this game up and make it as ugly and foul prone as possible. And that's what they did. And I don't know why they're complaining that the refs called them for the fouls they were committing. Having said that, like, and I'm sorry, the sun is like, my apartment faces west, so the sun is like right in my face. So I'll try and hold my hand up there if you're watching on YouTube. But I feel like the refs were fair. And at the end of the day, what you want is fairness. I didn't like the way the game was officiated. I thought too many fouls were called. I thought just a lot of soft stuff was called in a game of this magnitude. But they called it on both sides. So the team that loses is going to be upset with the officiating because they didn't win. I think both sides had a reason to say, like, that was a little much. That was a little too much. But again, like, you got to know how the game was called. They didn't change how it was called all game. It wasn't like in the second half they flipped and said, oh, we're going to call everything now. They called everything all game. So I don't know. Like, I think that's just, they lost and they're not happy. Hammond Ing, sorry if I mispronounced that. Does Jamal Mosley need to change his offensive schemes and plays with the new additions to the team? I don't think the Magic are going to drastically change their offensive identity. If you look at the Magic shot profile, I think they were 12th in the league last year in corner three-point attempts per game. They get good shots. You know, they generally get good shots. Making them is a challenge, but they generally, I think, get and create good shots. I think getting Desmond Bane is going to unlock some new things that they can do. I think the way that Franz Wagner has shown he can improve, the way like Goga Bitadze has shown he can improve, the way the players improve is going to dictate how things change a little bit too. And look, getting Jalen Suggs back, I think people underestimate how impactful Jalen Suggs is offensively. Like, obviously he's impactful on defense, but he changes a lot of things on offense too, because he is a floor spacer. He will space out to three-point line. He will drain jumpers. You know, he'll do all these things. And so I think that some things will change. As Rafa Casanova mentions in another comment, about Joe Prunty and him coming in, whether they could get them out in the break more. A big part of this, it's all part of the same piece. I do think there will be some adjustments and some things that they change. And I think Jamal Mosley is he's very flexible. Like, I don't think he has a quote unquote, this is my system, we're going to run it. His system has always been very read based. He wants everyone to be able to do everything. And so he's going to have guys, run pick and rolls that aren't usual run pick and rolls, or everything's going to be set off, like read what the defense is giving you and take that and do that. Because he wants an offense that will be unpredictable and be able to handle everything that's sent their way when they get to the playoffs. Now, to that point, I think it is important that the Magic get out in transition more. And getting Jalen Suggs back is going to help a ton with that. He wants to push the pace so much. Franz Wagner is unstoppable in transition. The dude literally cannot be stopped on fast breaks. If he has a head of steam behind him and an open lane and it's not walled up, he is scoring. Just plain and simple, as long as he's not going to his left hand. He is going to score. And so the Magic have to find a way to get more transition opportunities. My only concern is not having a point guard still is a factor there. Desmond Bane's going to hit pull-up threes. He's one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in the league. He's going to hit pull-up threes in transition. So we'll see. I'm optimistic the offense is going to be better, obviously. I'm not optimistic they're like suddenly going to be a top 10 offense. I think Prunty's going to help a little bit, inject some new ideas into things, but I still think the Magic are generally, going to operate sort of the same, just hopefully a little bit more efficiently and with a little bit more space. Like, honestly, the threat of their shooting and a little bit more space is going to help things out too. We saw that in like the early games last year with Miami and Brooklyn, those early games when people were still scared of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, like things were open for that offense. And I think that was a big factor. Then obviously Paolo gets hurt and everything else changes. I've got another question here about FIBA representation. Trent Boring asked, do you see Desmond Bane ever potentially representing Nigeria? As I am not, I'm assuming that he can represent Nigeria. I'm not 100% sure of that. EuroBasket was this summer, if I'm not mistaken. It feels like if that were going to happen, it would happen. I don't know if Desmond Bane is interested in doing that. So, again, I don't know Desmond Bane very well. I've talked to him once. I'm still getting a feel for his game. We'll figure that stuff out as we get closer to the World Cup in 2027, which, he should still be on the Magic by then. We're coming up at 10 to the hour here. I'm going to begin to wrap up. So if you have any last questions, be sure to jump in and we'll get to them here in just a moment. But I want to thank you all for joining me today on this live episode of Locked On Magic on YouTube or on X Spaces. It'll be simulcast and posted on the podcast feed as well. So always make it to the end of episodes when I explain when I'm doing things, and I try to put them at the top. But I want to thank everyone who's joined us for this live episode. Be sure to check out the Locked On NBA Top 100. We released that this week. Did an episode on it yesterday for Locked On Magic. It's our top 100 in the NBA, voted on by the Locked On Podcast Network, where all the hosts, top 100 is formed by the experts that cover these teams and players every day. You can find the full list on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Don't miss my reaction. It was on yesterday's episode of Locked On Magic. I talk about how the Magic get more attention and more notoriety, and why their guys are a little underrated, and why they have a lot to prove this year, and why I think they're going to beat those expectations this season. Let's get some last questions in here. Rafa, I did talk about Tristan da Silva. It was in the second segment. It was in the second segment, I believe. If not the second segment, early third segment. So look for the ad break in there. Well, don't worry. I'm going to put the timestamps in here after I process the episode for podcast. So just keep an eye out on that. We'll get to that in a minute. Trent Boring asks, who do you think would benefit more from leading their team and winning EuroBasket, Franz or Şengün? That's actually a good question. I'm obviously going to say Franz, because I think that Franz just needs leadership experience. And I think that more so than Houston. Houston's got Kevin Durant now. They've got Fred VanVleet. They've got guys who have been to the top of the mountain. They got guys who can kind of carry that load. And frankly, like, I know the league's a little bit different, and Şengün is a really good passer. being a center means the ball has to make its way to you. You're very, again, it's a little bit of a different league now, but you're very rarely the guy bringing the ball up and initiating offense if you're the center in Alperen Şengün. Whereas like Franz Wagner, like we talked about it, like it's not his nature to be the guy. I just don't think that's his personality. Like I think he's a little bit egoless. Like he's a super competitor. Like I'm not saying he's not competitive, but he sort of, he's happy if he doesn't have the ball. I mean, not that he's happy if he doesn't have the ball, but he's not demanding the ball and he's not demanding to impose himself on the game. Like, again, what I loved about this game is that Franz didn't have it. And usually when Franz struggles, like he struggles, he sinks to the background. He lets others kind of do their thing. In this game against Slovenia, Franz Wagner kept his foot on the pedal. He didn't have his jumper. So what? He's going to get to the basket. He's going to get to the foul line. He's going to find ways to contribute and keep helping his team win. That includes on defense, where I thought he did a really good job on Luka Doncic in the second half. So I think Franz beginning to take the keys from Dennis Schroeder like he has throughout this tournament. And I think that is a big boost for him and his confidence. Like we saw what it did when Paolo was out, when he was forced to be in that role. And so I think ultimately winning EuroBasket is bigger for Franz. Look, I'm not here throwing shade at Şengün. Şengün has probably been the MVP of this tournament. Honestly, no offense to Franz, and I love Franz. I hope he wins MVP. But the MVP of this tournament is Şengün, Giannis, or Luka. And it probably is Luka, but Şengün has been so good and has been a revelation. He's gotten what he needed out of this tournament. He's looked like he can compete with the absolute best players in the league. And that game, if you get a chance to watch that game, Friday at 2 p.m., Turkey versus Greece, that game is going to be war. There's a lot in that rivalry. It's not just about basketball with that rivalry. That is, if you know anything about history, that is war. That is going to be a war on the court in Riga in Latvia. So I think both players, like again, I think Franz has gotten a lot out of the EuroBasket. I'm still flabbergasted people don't want Franz playing in these tournaments. He gets a lot out of them every time he goes, and he's gotten a lot out of this tournament. It's been pretty good. Jeremy King asks, we're going to get to at least one more question here if I can get this to work. Jeremy King asks, how much better would Franz look if Germany had Moritz and Hartenstein for PNRs? First off, Germany would be a lot better. All due respect to Daniel Theis, who ended up having a pretty good game today. Daniel Theis looks like he's a step slow. I don't think Daniel Theis is going to make it to the World Cup. Certainly not as a starter. And with the amount of centers in this tournament, and Germany has been very lucky to avoid them. They haven't faced Turkey yet. They faced Turkey in an exhibition game, in a friendly. And Turkey kind of took it to them. Like, I'm a little worried about Germany playing Alperen Şengün because I don't know if they have the depth to deal with them. They avoided Nikola Jokic. Serbia's the only team that's beaten them this summer. You haven't faced Giannis yet. Hartenstein, Germany's biggest weakness is their rebounding. They're not as strong of a rebounding team as they need to be. Almost cost them in this game against Slovenia. Getting Hartenstein and Mo back just gives them better depth. Their center depth is just laughably bad. But I do think it would help a lot. Hartenstein is a really good passer on top of that. Mo can stretch out the three-point line. Like, better players are better. And, Franz, I think, has had to do a lot of isolation. He hasn't run as many pick and rolls with Daniel Theis. Daniel Theis is a good pick and roll player. Him and Dennis Schroeder were running circles around Slovenia in this game. Look, better players help. It sounds simple, but having better players is a good thing. The Magic are better because Desmond Bane's better than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. The Magic are better because Tyus Jones is probably better than Cole Anthony in a lot of ways. They have better players on the roster. It makes them a better team. Look, Germany's superpower is that they have been together. Their core group's been together for 3 straight tournaments now. For, EuroBasket, World Cup, Olympics, and now another EuroBasket. So 4 straight summers they have been together. That, adding Hartenstein changes things up a little bit. But they'll be better because Hartenstein is just such a big presence and is a much better presence outside of the paint, stepping away from the basket than I think people give him credit for too. I'm a big Hartenstein guy. You know me and what I did with Isaiah Hartenstein. So, I think it would help. But look, Franz has still looked really good this tournament. Maybe some shooting issues still, nothing we didn't expect. I think he's just going to be a streaky 3-point shooter this season. But I think he's taken some major steps and has played really, really well throughout this tournament. Trent Boring asks, who will have a bigger impact Friday, Tristan da Silva or Mika Murinen? I don't know. I think we'll talk, and we'll maybe talk more about this on tomorrow's episode. I do think that Germany has not seen the best of Finland. I think Germany, not that they got lucky, they beat Finland, beat them thoroughly in the group play game. Finland did not shoot well or shoot as well as we know they're capable of shooting. And I think that we will see a much better Finnish team, a much more, obviously a much more intense, engaged Finland team. I think we will see a Finland team that is ready to show up and ready to make shots and ready to surprise Germany. They know they're the underdogs in this thing. And I don't think Germany should walk into that game expecting the same game. Finland looked really good in that game against Georgia, just pummeled them. But they run really hot or cold. They ran really cold in that group play game. They could run really hot in this game. And again, I don't know what to expect. Like, Tristan da Silva just doesn't do very much. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. Like, he's not making mistakes. But like, if I'm disappointed about what Tristan da Silva's done in this tournament, is that he hasn't like stepped forward enough. And he still looks like a rookie at times, like a veteran rookie. Like, he generally knows what he's doing. He's not making mistakes, but he's not making an impact on games. Now, obviously he made an impact in this game. I'm not going to say otherwise. Like, he took opportunities when they come, but he's not creating opportunities for himself, if that makes sense. And maybe that's not what the Magic are asking, and certainly not what Germany's asking him to do. I'd like to see him just be a little more productive. Like, give me some more box score stats. So I will defer and say I think Murinen will have a bigger impact, but I think da Silva will hold his own. It may not show up in the box score as prevalent. But the one thing that has greatly impressed me about Germany this entire tournament is you can tell they are a championship team. You can tell that they are not fazed by anything that happens. They don't get frustrated. They don't break. They don't splinter. They don't panic. They just get to work. They just do the job. And the reason why Germany is the favorite to win this thing, and the reason why Germany really hasn't been challenged very much, is they just don't blink. They know what they're doing. They know what they do. They know who they are, and they just do it. And they have faith and trust and confidence in each other to get there. And that's what championship teams do. That's why they have been, they've been in the medal rounds of every tournament over the last 3 years and are now in another medal round. 4 straight tournaments with a chance to win a medal. They won fourth in the Olympics. They were in the bronze medal game. This Germany team and this Germany group is really special. And, some people, I don't think many people are asking me this, but some people may ask, like, why are you so focused on EuroBasket? Why does this matter? And if you're a Magic fan, this Germany team is playing exactly how you need to play if you're going to win a championship. They are playing, and obviously, like, international tournaments are a little bit different. But if the Magic, if Franz Wagner comes back and says, hey, this is how we do things with the German national team. If Randy Gregory comes back, Magic assistant coach on the German coaching staff, comes back and says, hey, this is how Germany does things. This is how Germany keeps their cool. And they play like that, they're going to have a really good season. Like, the way that Germany plays and the way that Germany acts, that's how you need to act if you're going to win a championship. And so for me, it's really good that the Magic are really involved in this team, and their guys are getting that experience and learning how to play this way in these pressure games. Like, my heart is still like thumping. I'm still like a little bit on edge from that game that finished 3 hours ago. That was an intense basketball game against Slovenia. And Germany just looked cool, calm, and collected the entire time. And that's one of the reasons they won. Like, Slovenia lost their composure. Slovenia got frustrated. Tristan da Silva hits that three. You could see, like, Luka gets frustrated. His body language is not good. He's an incredible player, but Slovenia was still in the game. Germany made some big shots. They got some free throws, and suddenly Slovenia is down 6, 7, 8 points, and it's just like they lost it. Their cool's gone. They never had it. Germany always had it. And that's why they're going. That's why they're going to win EuroBasket. That's why they're going to win this thing on Sunday. We're coming up on an hour, so I think that's where I'm going to cut things off unless someone has a last-minute question or comment they want to get in. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic, this live episode of Locked On Magic on YouTube and on X Spaces at OMagic Daily. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled device. You can find us as well on YouTube, if you haven't already, on YouTube just by searching for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. My newsletter comes out every Monday through Friday at noon. Check that out. And thank you all again for your support. Always be sure to check out Locked On NBA for the latest on the NBA, including our Locked On NBA Top 100 list. Still going through those lists. I did my episode yesterday on that, so definitely go back and check that out. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for joining us for this live episode of Locked On Magic. If you joined us live or if you're listening on replay, stay tuned and find out next time we do another live episode. Probably be right at the start of the season, heading into the preseason. But until then, we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Magic. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.